Hello everyone and welcome back to the Y Generation. I'm Andrew Olivares and I'll be with you here for the next half an hour while we discuss all the things that matter to our generation. And to assist me with this, because it wouldn't be much of a conversation on my own, even if I'd like to, here are our panellists. We have Raina, our self-proclaimed health nut who studies business, commerce and law.
Join me for a leg workout tonight.
Advertising student Scott, who lived in the same town as Miranda Kerr, but isn't much of a fan.
She's a lovely person.
Fair enough. Tanya, who is currently studying a degree in journalism and hopes one day to be on Triple J or FBI radio as a host.
It's debatable on whether I have a face for radio or not.
And Andrew, who is interested in the arts. He even writes short stories for the UWS student publication, The Crucible.
Imagination's a terrible thing to waste.
So let's give him a round of applause, guys. Thanks for being here. So now that you've met the team, let's get right into it with Because Why Said So. So, the new age question, are we too obsessive with box gaps? Another message sent from a viewer. Hi YGen, I wanted to ask you something personal, as it is a bit awkward to ask people in person. Until recently, I didn't even know what a box gap was. I'm still a little confused. But the other day, my best friend, or so I thought, told the guy that I like that my box was surrounded by a mountain, not a gap. I'm a naturally curvy girl, so is there anything I can try to secure this elusive gap? What do you guys think? Raina?
So what's her definition of curvy?
Don't know. Maybe she's just like...
Maybe we should Facebook her.
Yeah.
We'll look her up on Facebook.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have Facebook, so...
I think, yes, we are absolutely obsessed with box gaps, but not only that, we're obsessed with so many other ideas of beauty. We're obsessed with dimples, we're obsessed with freckles, bum chins, everything.
Yeah, when you've got, like, I disagree with you. I don't
not
necessarily think people are obsessed with box gaps. I think boys ideally probably see it as being something that's probably a bit more desirable.
So by that you're talking about 14 and 15-year-olds?
No, I think older guys, because I think it's probably a sign of maybe good health, maybe? Not good health, but being thin.
Not at all. I think it encourages this really... I think it puts this really unrealistic standard of beauty on women, and it's just another reason for women to feel insecure about something that they don't have,
but Scott,
something that they're not born with.
Don't you think it's a great goal to have for women to strive to?
Exactly. I feel that the worry should be, if we're worried about box gaps, if people thought the box gap was the gap between their fries and their box at the KFC. That's the issue. I don't think it's a bad thing to be healthy.
Right.
I don't think it necessarily promotes a healthy lifestyle, though. I think that there are people out there who are obsessed with the idea of a box gap and maybe put really unrealistic standards of beauty on themselves, and it's just too unhealthy.
But is it really unrealistic to be healthy, to be
I don't think it necessarily promotes a healthy lifestyle. Like I said, I just think it's, you know, the same as being obsessed with anything.
What do you think it actually promotes?
I don't think it promotes anything. I think it's very disadvantageous to our society. I don't think it's a good thing at all, and I don't think people should promote it. It depends
on how you go about it, how the girls go about achieving it. It could be another gateway to anorexia, like most of the narcissistic style attitudes that women have about their bodies. I mean, to say that it's because of the guys, I think you'll find most guys would just get shot on sight as a dirty perv for actually looking that close. Yeah. I mean, how often is a guy going to get to see the box gap in any point?
Speaking, a box gap is achieved when a girl generally has wide hips and she's got that curvaceous figure. And guys, obviously, naturally, are more drawn towards women that are curvier looking, because evolutionary-wise, they're the kind of women that are seen as, okay, this is the kind of woman I want to have children with.
I think it's more women that are placing those standards on themselves. It's not the men.
I think we can all agree in general that it's about social pressures joined to this. It's like to women and to men. Like, we've got some very strong opinions there, but I guess we better move on. Our next email is focused on the first kiss. YGen, I'm so sick of seeing men make the first move. We see it in movies, TV, and even read it in books. Men seem to always be the chaser. Is it truly so rare for the opposite to happen? Does a female never grab her man at the end of the date and make him remember her? Or do you guys still believe in the old-fashioned no kissing on the first date? So, two questions here. Should it be the man's job to make the first move, and should the first date end in a kiss? What do you think, Tanya?
Okay, well, first of all, I think I should just get one thing straight. There are very, unspoken rules about with dating, right?
The first date.
And
right.
in terms of the first date, if you're a guy, you've got to pay for the first date. You have to do it. You have to do it.
What if the
If you
guy
don't
is
do it, you
super poor?
look bad. You look bad. Then why take a girl out on a date if you're not going to pay? I'm just saying that this is like an unspoken rule, okay?
Isn't love stronger than money?
Rule. Hold on a second. I think you should let the woman finish here.
He's got problems with that.
And in addition to that, I think that if a man does pay for the first date, he shouldn't expect a kiss because of that, okay? So I think it's totally okay, kiss on the first date. If you're into it and he's into it and that's the natural progression of things, go for it. It's totally fine. But a guy shouldn't go into a date expecting like, oh, you know, I'm paying for this meal, I'm spending money on her, so I'm going to expect a kiss, because that is essentially prostitution.
Scott, did you pay for the first date, or do you feel an expectation?
I did pay for
but
the
do you have an
first date.
expectation to pay for every first date that you have?
Yes, and almost every date since then. That's the point of a date, is you go out and make it rain. But you follow the first kiss thing. You follow the 90-10 principle. The guy does 90% of the way, you know, like, and then the girl has to go the 10%, because that way you're not left kissing someone that's like, get away. You could just be like, oh, I tripped.
But so you think that this should happen every
with this
first
expectation
date?
of making the man pay for the first date, aren't we going back like to the 1950s, where the woman doesn't have enough money to pay for her own meal?
Look, Tanya, I completely disagree with you. I don't think it should be an expectation for a woman to feel like, oh, okay, you should be paying for the first date, whatnot. I think it shows independence, that if you are someone who's willing to go, no, don't worry, I've got it covered. I think it definitely shows that you're someone that can stand up for her own self. You have money, you have things going for you, and you can actually show the man, no, I don't really need you to do this for me. And with the first kiss principle, I agree with you, the 90-10 part. I think women need to display a certain level of respect for themselves. So no, by throwing herself at the man, I think that just kind of puts the guy off a bit. Like, okay, a guy has an evolution principle in him where he wants to feel like, hey, hunter-gatherer, I've won her.
But then you've also got the case of if the girl's expecting the guy to pay for the first date or all dates, is he actually looking at it as, it might be polite, but we're in the 21st century. You're talking about where we're moving towards a stage of equal partnerships in a relationship rather than one being subservient to the other. You're not looking at the fact of, well, the guy's paying, so of course he may expect something at the end of it, but yet you're having an issue with him wanting something at the end of it, even if it is just a kiss, because he's forked out the money.
He shouldn't expect her to kiss him just because he's paid for her dinner.
But you're expecting him to fork out for the money.
Well, I don't think we're going to agree on this one today.
You're courting a woman.
What about you at home?
If you want to impress a woman, that's what you've got to do. It's a first date. First impressions matter so much.
Look,
so much. You've got to be an idiot to disagree with me.
I disagree. I'm a woman and I disagree with you. I think you're putting way too much expectation on the guy.
Thanks.
I think way too much double standards here. Like, it should be, like, I mean, I think probably 60-40, maybe. Yes, a guy, you have to make him feel like he's the man, like he's the one that's looking after you. Guys love that.
I don't think we're going to agree on that one today. I think we've realised, well, we know what our panel for. What about you at home? Decide amongst yourselves and join the conversation at #YGenTV on Twitter or Facebook. And we'll see you back here shortly on The Y Generation. Welcome back to The Y Generation. Today's younger generation, along with our own, are considered rude, impolite, or just plain self-centered. Is that just how we were brought up by the past generations? Or do we get the impulse somewhere else? Maybe it's all just natural. We hit the streets and asked, are manners dead?
I don't think it's that they're dead, it's more that just they've diminished.
Diminishing, yeah.
You hear it every now and then. People still say please and thank you.
Oh, yeah, pretty dead in today's society, but they're still relevant.
I reckon it's changed because there's a lot of people these days that just have this attitude.
No, they're not dead. Definitely not dead.
I've still got it.
Like these days, it's all about, you know, social media and everything, Facebook, Twitter, and there's hardly that personal face-to-face communication anymore, so I think everyone's like pretty much forgotten about manners.
Probably not.
I don't think it's dead.
The kids out there, you know.
Are you one of them?
No, a bit sometimes.
The younger generation, I think,
Most of them, no, they haven't got any.
I'm from Italy, so manners, are a big thing over there. But I do realize that when I travel in other countries, sometimes, manners are getting lost a little bit.
No, we still use.
Yeah, some people use them. It depends.
I use it when I work.
Yes, I think they are a lost start in the modern community. People aren't given the respect that they deserve.
You get the good and you get the bad. Like, there are people that are just so rude, but there's people who are, like, profusely awesome, so, like, that makes up for it.
Well, I know my manners certainly aren't dead, but I don't think of myself as very chivalrous either. I can't speak for our whole generation, though. Was everyone here brought up with manners? And more importantly, do you use them, Scott?
Yeah, I was brought up with manners to a point, but, I'll still drop the F-bomb in front of my parents and call them nasty things, because it's part of our relationship.
So does that mean that you're
my manners are pretty much dead, let's be honest. Right.
Raina, what do you think?
Look, I think people of our generation, especially, I think manners definitely have been lost in the echoes. Really, it has been. Like, I work in customer service, and also being a customer going into certain shops as well. I mean, some of the customers at my work as well come in and you're just like, seriously? I might be a checkout chick, but I'm also a human being. You don't have to speak to me that way.
Where does this come from? Is it because we're multicultural? Is it because we're changing? Are we becoming more ignorant? What's the case?
Well, how much of it's because the Australian attitude is one that is a hell of a lot more laid back than what other countries are? I mean, yes, my grandparents probably tried to instill manners in me a lot more than what my parents did. But by the time the 90s rolled around, you couldn't open a door for a girl at school without getting told to get knotted.
I would never drop the F-bomb in front of my parents. I think that's so rude and disrespectful. I don't think that manners are dead, but they're definitely dying. I work in the hospitality industry, I work at the casino, and I see it more in the older generation. You give them their drinks, half the time they don't even acknowledge you. They're too busy playing their whatever game that they're doing, and half the time they'll just either grunt or they won't notice that you're there. I very rarely get like a please and thank you.
You want to know something that's interesting about that? I actually find a lot of times older generations are rude to me as well, and I think it may be, I hate to say this, but it might also be because of our background.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous,
I tend to find, I honestly do, like I said, working in customer service, I tend to find a customer would stand there, scream at me, belittle me. As soon as a white person comes in, it's like, oh, sorry, I'm just, talking about this. And I'm like, really? So there is that double standard.
So this manner, like the manner comes from what culture you're from, you think? From older generation to our generation?
Oh, yes, definitely. Like,
because cultural background can also affect how much manners are reinforced and reinstated in the next generation.
Because we're all brought up differently.
Exactly.
I think young people give older people more respect than they give us.
You reckon?
Definitely.
I read a study once that was about language and how language changes, and this guy did every 30 years, he looked at dean of one of the American universities. They always write little things out, like their statements and stuff. And every 30 years it said the same thing. The younger generation can't use grammar and are impolite. So isn't it just that manners change?
You want to know something interesting? I've actually heard, I've had a lot of people from overseas countries, and I've travelled as well overseas, tell me that Australians are extremely rude. I don't know if you have heard of this, but I've had so many people tell me that people in Australia are just plain rude. And at first I was like, nah, as if. And then 2 years ago I went to America. Last year I went to Singapore and Malaysia, and my gosh, I was like, wow. Australians actually really are rude.
Yeah, but give me a genuine Australian who's prepared to look you in the eyes, which, OK, the Chinese might find that intimidating and offensive, but then dealing with an American where that, hi, how are you, thank you, is so false and so full of crap. It is rather a superficial facade.
Wouldn't you prefer realness to something?
It's not realness.
You can still be real and be polite.
Exactly. It's not that hard to be polite. It really isn't. But people just choose not to be because people have too much pride.
And the march of the way Twitter and everything else has moved with social media, where are the manners?
We don't have to be polite anymore.
Yeah, I think
where is it socially
I think we can all agree that manners aren't dead necessarily, but they are dying. The limbs are dying, they're falling off. So let us know what you guys think on our Facebook page, or tweet us. Are manners dead? We'll take a break, and when we get back, we'll discuss some bigger issues. See you then. Welcome back to our final segment, where the heat gets turned up a notch as we discuss some major social issues in Why So Serious? Kicking off with something that affects us all every day, is the government doing the best they can for our society? We're seeing negativity everywhere. We get told we live in a wealthy country, but at the same time, we interact daily with the poor, the unemployed and below average earning people, battling through life on very little. Taxes seem to only ever be going up, regardless of your earnings or circumstance, and election promises are broken daily. Is it time we took a stand and asked the question, is the government doing the best they can for our society and the Y generation? Raina?
Okay, look, guys, I came to Australia 11 years ago. I migrated here.
Okay.
Obviously, my parents came here hoping for a better life, and that is what we have gotten here, me and my family. So I disagree with people who say, okay, the government isn't doing enough for us over here in Australia, because I think we are so lucky to be living in a country like Australia. We have boundless opportunities, unlimited potential. We can be whatever we want to be. We can become whatever we want to be. And a lot of people, like you were saying earlier, we're faced with a lot of people who are still poor, facing difficulties.
What do you say to those people that are unemployed?
Honestly, a lot of them are just choosing to be that way. I personally think so.
Wow.
A lot of them, I think, are just not willing to give all that they have. I mean, a lot of people always complain, oh, the Chinese are now buying all the houses, house prices are going up. Why do all the Indians own the big houses and the nice cars? Because they come here basically with nothing and decide, yep, I have been given this opportunity,
Tanya,
I will make the most of it.
Do you think that the government's doing the best they can?
Well, I don't think that they would be doing... I don't think they're doing the best that they can, but obviously I don't think we're extremely disadvantaged, and obviously in comparison to like third world countries with corrupt governments, those are very extreme cases. Yeah. But also in terms of media bias, I'd like to bring that up as well, because before the last election, I think it was the weekend before the last election, it was a Sunday Telegraph that ran a paper saying, we need this Prime Minister, insert name here. And I think that is completely wrong. And I'm so ashamed to call myself a journalism student because of that media bias. So. But
the reality of that headline is they did exactly the same thing in 2007 to get rid of John Howard by doing that for Kevin Rudd.
Do you not think it's wrong?
But do you think
that's wrong?
The journalism should just be biased?
It's up to their own. I mean, if you read that paper, you read that paper. If you don't read that paper, you've got a number of other ones to read.
So even if no one read
Scott, do you really think that people weren't influenced by that paper?
If you're influenced by what you read on a newspaper, then you probably shouldn't be reading. Like, let's be honest, if you're going to be voting for one side and you come and look at a newspaper and it tells you to vote the other way and you go, oh, that seems like a good idea, and you do it, then...
But not everyone is a university student. Not everyone is as educated as we are. These people are easily influenced.
Look, I'll be honest, I think it's wrong that voting is compulsory. I think it's very, very, very wrong that voting is compulsory because of the fact that I think, as you were saying, not many people are educated, not many people really care.
So you're talking about wanting to bring in voluntary voting?
I definitely think voluntary voting should
So that means shifting to an American-style system, which creates all sorts of problems. You reckon the political campaigns that are run now are nasty?
Yeah.
Wait till we're building with super PACs.
Well, of course, we'd all love to see changes that improve living standards for all. I don't have the answers today, unfortunately, but I did start the conversation, so that should score me a few points. Another subject that questions the role of law and order, the police. Love them or hate them, public opinion surveys suggest that the community doesn't completely trust the police force, and our faith has declined over the past 50 years. Why is this? Should they perhaps be focusing more on crime prevention or issuing fines? Are the police really looking out for the community's best interests? Andrew, what do you think?
Well, I think the police are ideally looking out for the interests of the community. It's their job. It's their role. Their role is to serve and protect. But they can also only do that within the bounds of what the government legislates to allow them to do.
Yep.
And if the politicians don't have the will to allow the police to do what they need to do properly, then that's unfortunately where the problem lies. It falls back to those making the laws as to what the police are actually able to do to carry out their job.
So do you guys think we blame the legislation for
I'm just
what
wondering,
the police is doing?
Do police have KPIs?
Yes.
Because if they do, I think that's wrong. That's why I think there's just certain ridiculous bookings that go on. That's, like, I know, I disagree with that. I think police shouldn't have KPI.
With Tom Cruise, and it's all, I think it's Tom Cruise, it's all like all about crime prevention, future crimes. Isn't that a little bit wrong? How can you tell if someone's going to commit a crime? Even if all the evidence says the human can change at any point of their
life.
life.
But generally speaking, past behaviour is a predictor of future behaviour. So
I think that's important to focus on, but it shouldn't be their sole focus. I think...
so what should their sole focus be, do you think?
To look after the people and to help them as much as they can.
Yeah, but I think having KPIs turns it more into, rather than stopping crime, to just, I need to book as many people as I possibly can so that my boss can be happy.
Yeah, but if you're breaking the law, you should be booked.
Yeah, but sometimes,
that's exactly what we're
some people
about.
get booked for the most ridiculous
if you're
things.
Is that what we're saying? We want to change the legislation so that they can't book people like
I've had a mate who got booked one time for pointing out something from a window. He's a passenger. And he's just like, oh, look at that. Stuck his hand down. There was a police at the back. And it's like, really? Did you seriously have to book me for that?
Type of things.
So, Scott, you're saying that you agree with the legislation that the police
I 100% agree with it. If you're caught breaking the law, you should face punishment. I mean, even if it's a simple law like I've stuck my hand out a window, there is a reason why that law has been brought in.
No, I don't disagree with you with that one, but I think the fact that because they have that KPIs there, they're more like, okay,
that wouldn't have been why
do this.
was booking them for the guy sticking his hand out the window, because the guy sticking his hand out the window was moving cars indicating a turn. And if the car's actually not turning in that direction, that's breaking a road rule.
I don't think police are always fair, though. I think sometimes they take responsibility on themselves to think what they do, to kind of think that, you know, this person might not be doing the right thing by their standards, not by the standards of the law. So they might, they might overact and they might step in where they shouldn't.
They've also been more constrained over the years as well. When you've got people like what was happening in the 1980s, where they were being a little bit, well, for the time, heavy-handed and basically smacking around a couple of crooks that had basically earned, you know, a clip around the ears rather than actually needing to be locked up for the night.
So I think we can all agree that it's the legislation that the police have to enforce. That's the issue here. It's not the police itself. Well, let's hope the police don't hold a grudge against us here on The Y Generation. Please thank our panellists. Well, we'll be back next week with some new conversation starters. Until then, we'll leave you with our fave YouTube clip of the week. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.
Muscle there.
Yeah.
Claire loves guys with big muscles.
Abducted.
Hey Neil.
Yeah.
Can you introduce me to Alex? How hot is Cooper? Anglo guys with blue eyes. Why do I always go for the worst guys?
Look, I don't know. I don't know how any guy could treat you that way, but there's one guy that will always be there for you.
Who?